we welcome in for the Sheriff Sit Down presented by our Community Credit Union, Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury. Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
Let's start back last week. We heard reports and saw some pretty harrowing video. There was evacuations as well in Union, the Union Bank fire. I know you're not a fire agency, but you guys go to these and help assist in the evacuation process, I'm imagining,
control,
and things
all kinds
like
of
that.
things, yes.
It seemed like it was one of our first major fires of this season. We've been thankful so far that it has not been as hot as it has been the last couple of days for an extended period of time. But talk to us a little bit about how law enforcement gets involved in those types of things when it's primarily a fire issue there.
Well, I think the fire chiefs and I agree that when there's a massive problem, we're all in it together. It really doesn't matter if it's just fire issues or if it's collisions or whatever. We seem to always end up at the same place at the same time. As you recall, just a few weeks ago, I think you hosted one and moderated one of the issues where the fire chiefs and fire personnel were talking to the county about things very similar to this and their recommendations, and I think I related to you that I had people question if they should have to leave because the fire staff asked them to leave. Well, I'm getting news for you: when things are burning, I'd listen to the fire chiefs and the fire staff to leave the area. As far as I know on that, people were very compliant. Which is a good thing, and we're able to move out of there. And some people were moved out that are a little resistant because it's not there yet. But when you try to funnel everybody out at the last minute, it makes it very challenging to move people safely out of an area.
These are narrow roads, oftentimes in the Union area, and they're
on hills,
around hills and around trees and things like that.
Yeah, the fire staff just did an exceptional job of getting on that and containing that and bringing resources in immediately. When I saw the call come out, I was watching the request for services and the people on scene asking where to prepare people to be set up for and start moving people immediately. And they did an excellent job on that. And I think we've been very fortunate, as you say, not to have others like that.
There's a new Facebook page that people are encouraged to follow along with. We've put the links to it and shared, and Mason County wildfire. We'll make sure we get the proper links in there. But it was very comprehensive and was as updated as fast as possible. And that was the other thing we talked about. They're there to help the fire and to stop the fire. They'll get the information out as quickly as they can, but sometimes it's not possible to do that. Same in your line of work.
Yeah, the other thing to remember on this, we always hear about the firefighters and the police officers out there. A really challenging place to be during one of these things is a communication center.
Yeah.
Because people are calling from across the canal. I mean, they can see it, and from across the canal, perhaps better than some people could see it where it was closer to them. And there's a lot of calls coming into the call center and advising who's doing what and who's moving where. And those folks in the communication center, they are super busy on that, and they do a great job of getting that information out. We had one of our people out there updating on our Facebook page as much as we could, getting information through fire on what to be posted. So everybody did a lot of work, coordinated effort on that, but it takes all of your resources.
Yeah,
just what we have on shift to move out there to start blocking roads and then having enough people to remove others as fire is trying to move their equipment and personnel into place to combat these things.
While still being able to monitor the rest of the county for other incidents. I ran into another guy who works for Central Mason this over the weekend, and I asked him if he was at the Union fire. He says, no, we had a lot of our crews go up there. We held back to be able to fight any other fires, which is another thing.
Whenever there's a major incident, just like we have during the day, we'll have maybe one major thing happening during the day, but all those other things don't stop calling in.
Yeah.
All the other issues are still there, and they keep backing up and backing up. And when you're looking at 24-hour periods of time, it just gets passed to the next shift, and people become very irritated that we're not responding directly to their needs at that moment, at that particular place in time for whatever their issue is. But we're looking to prioritize those calls, and some things are just going to have to sit there. But you have one major incident like this over a number of hours, it slows everything down for sometimes a couple days.
It's Mason County WA Hazard, that new Facebook page that's got a lot of information on there.
And the nice weather's bringing out a lot of people out on the water.
Yes, I believe you spoke with our Sergeant Severance.
Yep.
When you talked about this going into spring, I talked about the 70-degree rule, gets over 70, people start, doing things they wouldn't normally do, and confrontations with boaters. And we still, I watch news like everybody else. It's not just around here. Was watching, I believe it's Seattle Police Department, talking about people going out on their paddle boards without having their life jackets on, and some of them are required to have them on there, but they're not on the person. And you go out next to these bodies of water, and you'll see young kids playing in these rivers that seem like they are. In some places they're only a couple inches deep, but you can be moving across a river, and there's a low spot or a drop in that river. It drops many feet deep, and it has a quick path through there, and it drags people down, and they don't have a life jacket on. And when I was on the dive team, we dealt with that constantly, even around the lakes. You go out to a certain point, and sometimes there's a drop, and people are out there that aren't proficient in swimming, but they want to be out there. And some people that are out there, they're proficient in swimming. Things can happen. People get in the water, and then you have a tragedy. Another one that's not necessarily for around here as much, but we see over and over again is one that we saw years in the dive team, was folks out at the ocean, and they've got kids out in the water, and it'll be a floating log, and everybody wants to play on the log, forgetting that 1,500 to 3,000 pound log floats until the water goes out from underneath it, and you're between that and the beach. And, and people think it's fun to go out and do that, and then all of a sudden you have a tragedy, and you try to convey to people, stay off those things, and it just continues to be a draw.
I was in a lake over the weekend, and you can dip your toe in or even your full foot in, but still below the surface, the temperature is still cold. So if you're jumping, I saw some videos of people jumping off bridges into some sorts of water over the weekend, and that first half a foot, maybe a foot where the sun is really penetrating it can be warm, but anything under that, it's still cold, and the rivers, like you were saying, are glacier fed often, and so the water still can be cold.
When we jumped in each year that we do that fundraiser, and you've done that with us, you realize, and you're going in, you know that shock's coming when you do our fundraiser and that polar plunge, and still, you can't be prepared enough.
Yeah, no.
You hit that water, and it's going to be cold.
It's cold.
After 13 years of doing it every year, you know that it's going to be just as cold this year as it was last year, and your mind's telling you it's going to be cold. But when you hit that, people that are unprepared to hit that water, it becomes a real issue. If you're knocked out of a boat or fall into the water, you're not really ready and planning on being in there, it becomes a real issue and really harmful.
Anything else you'd like to share with us here this morning as we move through the rest of August?
We just asked that, this time of year as we go into, the next one will be as we go into fall and kids will start going back to school. Another weekend that I've always felt challenged when I worked on the road was Labor Day weekend. Many schools go back into session, and these last, August is kind of the last hoorah before kids go back to school, and people are pulling their boats and trailers and camp trailers and things, from one side of the mountains to the other. Depends on which side you live on. You're going to the other side to get away from it all, and everybody's on their way back. And those weekends, a great amount of stress in driving. Everybody's been out in hot sun all weekend and getting home late at night, trying to get people ready for the morning. And we have a lot of family issues during that time, and just trying to be home a little bit earlier and not in such a rush and those kind of things. It really does help out, but this end of the summer here is getting there, and it always seems to accumulate more issues.
Seems like our roads here up and down I-5, Steph just got back from a trip, and now pretty much any time of the day on I-5 it's a nightmare. So the earlier you have that ability to kind of leave if you can, it is helpful, but
we have folks graduating, recently quite consistently from the academy in Seattle, and we go up there for that. And it used to be you'd jump in the car, run up there, go to the academy graduation, and be back. Now it's an all-day event. You've got to leave so early in the morning because the traffic up there, and by the time you sit through the graduation, it's a number of hours generally on the way back because it's just traffic stop all the way. And it doesn't matter what time of day anymore.
No, it doesn't. Not at all. Sheriff, good to see you as always. It's 7:48 at I-Fiber 1, the Sheriff Sit Down, presented by our Community Credit Union.